The other day, I was curious what ChatGPT had to say about game masters cheating. Should they cheat or not? And what are the various ways GMs supposedly cheat? So I asked it, and this is what it said.
Game masters, GMs, have a unique position in role-playing games, like Dungeons & Dragons, D&D, as they control the game world, non-player characters, NPCs, and overall story progression. While cheating may not be the best term, GMs do have various ways to bend or modify the rules for the sake of storytelling, or maintaining game balance. Some methods include...
And then ChatGPT went on to list 7 ways that GMs cheat. The big question, of course, is should GMs cheat or not? Or perhaps a better question is, can GMs cheat? Does cheating even apply to game masters? Or does their unique role in the game make traditional cheating not even apply to them? Now, before we jump in, I want to tell you really quickly about our next Kickstarter, The Secret Art of Game Mastery. If you're a game master, new or veteran, looking to improve the games you run, my team and I created this book just for you. We have taken all our combined experience as game masters, over 100 years, from scores of game systems and genres, and put it all into the secret art of game mastery. Our goal with this book is to put the guidance and information you need as a game master right in the palm of your hand. Oh, and there will be 2 companion books as well, a campaign and adventure planning workbook and a game master journal. These 2 books contain information and templates that I personally use in my own games to help me plan my adventures and keep track of important details as they unfold. The Secret Art of Game Mastery Kickstarter launches in August, so click that link below to get notified when it goes live. Okay, so this is what we're going to do today. First, we are going to look at the 7 different ways game masters can cheat, and then we're going to give our final verdict. Should game masters cheat or not? Number 1, fudging dice rolls. This is the most obvious way GMs can cheat. And by the way, for now, I'm just gonna call it cheating, as it is the most efficient way to speak. And I'm gonna not use those air quotes every single time either, because frankly, my fingers are gonna get tired. Anyway, fudging dice rolls means changing dice outcomes to prevent undesirable consequences or circumstances, such as preventing a character's death or ensuring desirable results, such as a key plot event occurring. A classic example of this happened in my last Pathfinder 2 game session. The group had just come off a TPK, all their characters died, and the very first encounter their brand new characters were in was looking very bleak. I was faced with this very question. Should I fudge dice rolls to make sure they didn't all die again in the very next game session, or should I not? Number 2, adjusting encounter difficulty. There are various ways GMs can do this, changing the number of monsters, changing the type of monsters, or the stats of the monsters. This can be done to either increase the challenge or reduce it, depending on the situation in the game. The first of these 3 ways I most often see this being done is by either increasing or decreasing a monster's hit points. If a fight is going too easy, you bump up the hit points. If it's going too hard, you reduce them. I will say as a quick sidebar that increasing hit points just makes the battle last longer and potentially turns it into a slog. A better approach is increasing the damage an enemy does, as this makes the combat more dramatic and exciting and not just longer. Of course, it needs to be justified through role-playing, but that's usually not that hard with a little creativity. Besides, most players are familiar with the concept of different stages in a battle where an enemy shifts tactics and perhaps becomes even more dangerous as the fight wears on. The second way GMs often adjust encounter difficulty is by having more enemies arrive if a combat is far too easy. And the third way is having monsters run away or surrender as a mechanism for making a combat easier than it would have been if they had just fought to death. Though I must say, many times this happens because the GM is role-playing the enemies and has nothing to do with making things easier. Number 3, altering loot and rewards. Game masters can change the loot, such as magic items the characters get, in order to balance the game, give them a much needed item, or simply create a more exciting experience. For instance, if your players are in the middle of a dungeon crawl and they are getting trounced and really need some healing, you might have them discover a coffer filled with healing potions in the next room they explore. Or if their frontline tank just had its armor destroyed by a rust monster, the next group of guards they fight conveniently has one soldier who is wearing full plate armor that also conveniently fits the tank. Number 4, modifying NPC behavior. Game masters can change how NPCs interact with the players, making them more helpful, hostile, or secretive to drive the story forward or adjust the challenge. For instance, let's say your players are having trouble figuring out where to go next as they track down a killer on the loose. Well, as they are resting for the night at Granny Titchwillow's hut, she might give them some important information to point them in the right direction. Information that you, the game master, decided on the spot that she would have. Or if the group has Gary the intern traveling with them and helping, but you notice Gary's presence and elite fighting skills are making all of the combats trivial, you could decide that Gary is secretly working for the bad guys and that he either deserts or betrays them unless they increase the 401k match from 3% to 6%, of course. Number 5, the illusion of choice. This one can also be called changing the plot and happens when the game master improvises or modifies the plot to adapt to the player's decisions. A game master might do this to ensure that important story elements are included, even if the players have deviated from the intended path. The classic example of this is when characters are supposed to go to point A because that's where the dastardly dungeon of dread and doom lies, but for whatever reason they decide to go to point B. Well, then the game master just takes the dastardly dungeon of dread and doom and plops it down at point B instead. Problem solved. Number 6, bending or ignoring the rules. This type of cheating happens when game masters ignore or bend the rules for the sake of the story or to avoid unnecessary complications or maybe even to help their bad guys win. This behavior is usually justified by quoting the rulebook on page X where it says that the game master is the master of the rules and may change any rule as they see fit. Most game systems have that sort of statement baked somewhere into the core rulebook. You just have to look for it. Number 7, metagaming. With this one, game masters use their knowledge of the players and their characters to influence the game world, or even steer players toward a specific decision or outcome. One example of this is creating adventures customized for the characters. And most times I hear about this, it involves adventures intended to stress their weaknesses and make things more challenging. Another classic example is having the characters fight a group of enemies that are basically their twins. I actually did this once for my Sword Coast Guard group. It was pretty fun, especially when one of the players, Trevor I think, blurted something out along the lines of, "Great, we're basically fighting our mirror opposites." Oh, and eavesdropping is another instance of this. This happens when the game master is listening to the players talk about something and then decides that the player's idea is cooler than what the game master had come up with and then changes things on the fly to use the player's idea. For instance, putting a trap on a door because the players are convinced it must be trapped, or changing the solution to a puzzle because the players just spent 20 minutes figuring it out. And even though they're wrong, it just feels more satisfying to just allow their solution to work and to get the game moving along too. There you go, 7 ways GMs supposedly cheat. And the big question then, is it okay for game masters to cheat? Well, this is what ChatGPT said.
It's important to note that these methods should be used with caution and in the best interest of the game's enjoyment. The goal is to create a fun and engaging experience for the players, and not to manipulate the game unfairly or undermine player agency.
And I must say that is pretty well said. Maybe artificial intelligence is going to take over. Here's another point though. And this is something that I always offer on the subject of game masters cheating. If we examine all 7 of the ways GMs cheat, we would find one thing they all have in common. They involve the game master changing things on the fly during the game session, whether it's changing dice rolls, NPC attitudes, the location of an adventure, or the solution to a puzzle. Now, if we were to examine the idea of the game master changing those things before the game session, I think most people would agree that it 100% lies within the GM's right to create the game however they see fit before the game session begins. So the real issue when we're considering whether GMs can or should cheat or not has very little to do with what they are doing. Instead, it has almost everything to do with when they are doing those things. Is it before or during a game session? And my question for you is this: does it really matter? Think about it. From a player's point of view, the dastardly dungeon of Dread and Doom has always been located 2 hexes northeast of Grimstone. They have no idea the Game Master moved it when the players decided to go that direction instead of going the other direction. From the player's point of view, Gary the intern was always going to betray them and use his 401k match as a negotiation lever. So if from the player's point of view, those things were always that way, and if the Game Master does have the right to decide those things before a game session begins, why does it make a difference when those decisions occur? And if it doesn't really matter, can we really call it cheating? You know, whether or not we call it cheating or just curating the game session, rather doesn't matter. A better question is, should a game master do those things? ChatGPT seems to think that they should, as long as they are done in the best interest of everyone's enjoyment. However, this is my general approach as a game master. I prefer to avoid all 7 of those as much as I can. Personally, once I've designed game elements before a game session begins, I avoid changing them on the fly. I don't think there's anything wrong with changing game elements during a game session. I just find it unsatisfying as both a game master and a player. Most times, I'd rather just play it as it lies. In particular, fudging dice is something that I really don't like. And doing it makes me feel like slimy, scuzzy. And that's the one game element that isn't decided by the game master before a game begins, by the way. And I feel like interfering with it cheapens the game experience for everyone. So I almost never fudge dice. However, good game masters, clever game masters, understand that cheating from time to time is necessary. The trick, though, is to do it sparingly and only when it improves the game experience for everyone at the table, both the players and the game master. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. When you do these things, it really helps surface my content and get useful information in front of other game masters. Also, if you're a game master looking for a supportive and friendly community to bounce ideas off or ask questions, consider joining the DM Lair Discord at the link below. We have over 8,000 members, many of them game masters who are more than happy to help. Now, if you're wondering how you should deal with game-breaking things as a game master, you know, character combos, overpowered magic items, and the like, check out this video right here, where I discuss exactly how to handle this. And until next time, happy game mastering.